paradise and put up a parking lot.
Tempers are frayed at Malabar Riding School these days. The Malabar Headlands remains the only undeveloped land along the eastern suburbs coastline. The school must vacate the headlands by the 31st of October 2011 after fears of asbestos deposits on the site. And they're not happy.
It makes you wonder whether or not it's a convenient boogeyman to be brought out of the closet so that that people will vacate.
Owner of Malabar Riding School, Frank Leake, has not only lost his livelihood, but also the place he has called home for almost 30 years.
It's been great, yeah. Just seeing the joy on kids' faces is enough for me, and adults as well. A lot of adults making a comeback at it, and it's just been good.
Frank joined the army and was arranged superintendent of the Malabar site in 1983 until 1988 when the army moved out. He continued as the site's caretaker and started the popular riding school in 1993.
I put approximately 10,000 bums in saddles a year.
This 170 hectares of waterfront land is valued at $2.5 billion.
We only have a licence to operate. We don't have a lease, so a licence to operate is probably the lowest form of obtaining land because you can be terminated at any time.
The Federal Department of Finance and Deregulation has issued notices of termination to all licensees of the site, including Malabar Riding School and the Sporting Shooters Association of Australia, the SSAA, after Comcare investigated the site. Significant quantities of asbestos were dumped in the area in the 1940s. The government claims people and horses walking over buried asbestos could force the fibres to rise to the surface and become airborne. There was also found to be asbestos in the roofs of the buildings.
Horse riding may be one of the methods how you could elicit the asbestos fibres into the air.
Professor Nico van Zandwijk, director of the Asbestos Diseases Research Institute, says that there is no safe exposure to asbestos.
It is indeed true that if asbestos is touched, is moved, it may become friable, and so asbestos fibers may emerge in the air, and then they become dangerous, because inhalation of asbestos fibers is the mechanism that is causing disease. I think it is a good thing that also today that the government is very careful and trying to avoid people to expose themselves to asbestos.
But skeptics say the eviction notice is a government tactic to get them off the land.
If they thought there was any problem, they would have asked us to move a long time ago. And in fact, they've given us many months to move, so it can't be that much of an issue.
With close to 25,000 members, the SSAA is the largest club using the Anzac rifle range, the biggest range in the Southern Hemisphere.
Wherever we go will be a lot of travelling and a lot of expense for fuel and trying to get there, so we probably won't get to do our sport as often once this closes.
George Papalo, secretary of the Sydney branch of the SSAA, said the closure would threaten the sport in Sydney.
24,500 members require rifle ranges to actually access them to enjoy their sport, and also from a legislative point of view they require to attend the ranges at least 4 times a year. Then that will severely impact on the sport.
George, like many, is also suspicious of the government's decision. Although he knows that there is asbestos in the roofs on the headlands, he does not see it as a health risk.
As you find anywhere in Sydney, these roofs of these buildings have got asbestos, but you'll find that in a lot of houses. If you don't touch it and you don't drill through it or break it, it's safe. If it starts to look as if it's a little bit weather worn, it just needs a coat of paint. So if you don't touch the asbestos, it's perfectly safe.
1 in every 3 houses in Australia built before 1982 has asbestos in it. Thousands of Australian workshops and homes have been built with asbestos fibro roofs, floors and walls. Barry Robson, president of the Asbestos Diseases Foundation of Australia, advocates and supports people living with asbestos-related diseases in New South Wales.
Any exposure to the deadly asbestos fibres in any situation is very, very worrying. Has the government made the right decision? Well, I think this is an old issue. They've been trying to redevelop that rifle range area for decades, and developers could never get their hands on it. So I put the question back, is this an excuse for the government to get rid of the current tenants, the Rifle Sporting Shooters Association and the riding people, so then they can clear up the land and then redevelop it, because that's a lot of money out there.
The riding school and the rifle range have not received any indication from the government that they can return to the site once the danger of the asbestos is removed.
Yes, my current horse, Bear, is a stock horse, and at the moment we're not sure where he'll go because we're having problems finding anywhere. Land is limited in Sydney, and eastern suburbs is Centennial Park's the only option. They've got 70 horses on the waiting list, so we could be looking at years before finding a place to put him.
Donna Wright has headed a petition to object to the removal of the riding school and has started a Facebook page called Save Our Horses to rally up community support.
I'm hoping to relocate to continue my business and take my horses with me, because they're loyal servants, and I know there's a lot of people that will follow me as well.
The fate of this last undeveloped piece of city coast hangs in the hands of the federal government. The Malabar Headlands community would then have to find a new place to call home.